Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the Life's Podcast VideoCast with SUJATA and Coach Les. No retakes, no manuals, real life lessons against all odds, coming right from SUJATA's book. SUJATA has accumulated a wealth of experience during her life, leading to insights and knowledge that cannot be coached or taught in a class. She is a mother, a wife, a journalist, a consultant, an activist, a leader, and businesswoman domestically and internationally in sharing her story. SUJATA strives to provide readers of all backgrounds in any part of the world which real benefit, real life examples on how to deal with And with that, hi Cass, hi Ruben, hi Michelle. Good to see you. We are live on Clubhouse. We are live on Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and several pages on Facebook. And today we are looking at the question, do parents practice what they preach? And why does our youth seem so muddled up? So I'd love to hear the first thoughts before we dive into this, of what are the thoughts that brings to the conversation, just asking that question. And I'm going to pass the mic to SUJATA.
Here is the thing. Do you remember that in the last conversation that we had, you had mentioned that how, children are dressed up with the family, put on their best, go to church for the ritual of going to church on Sunday Mass or something. And then when they come back at home, it's a different thing. You mentioned, I think, your father's neighbor coming to the fence
and pulling the fence down. Yep.
Yeah. So it's something like that you put on an image and you put on your best and you put on a facade for the outside world, but in the house or in your personal thing, you do something opposite. So if the parents are telling the children, oh, you must do this and you must do that and you should not do this and should not do that, but they don't practice what they say, then the child is going to be confused. Are we supposed to listen to the words, or are we supposed to look at the actions? Which of the two are we to follow? What is said that we should be doing versus what they are showing by examples, which is contrary to their preaching. And that's how children have to be in a muddled state, because they have to make the decision of what to follow or not to follow. I mean, moral science studies in school, and teachers will say, don't lie, don't cheat, don't bribe, don't do this. And then they see their father or their mother doing exactly opposite. What is the child going to think? So
it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Or that, this is something contrary. So the actions and the words don't go hand in hand. That's why they're muddled. And then we blame the kids sometimes for going astray, not taking accountability for our action.
Yep. So that's always a great conversation. I'm looking forward to debating this today as we step into this world. Really appreciate it. And thank you for being here. And with that, Michelle, I'd love to hear your thoughts about the statement, do parents practice what they preach, and why does our youth seem so muddled?
Today's day? No. I hear it all the time. And I'll even be part of the blame. Example, it's funny. This is for me to listen to. Today, I don't know, I didn't put the dishes away. And I'm like, I should have done it as soon as I ate, whatever. So I'm looking at my daughter, right? And she doesn't put that away. She doesn't put that away sometimes. I'm like, okay. And I go, I'm not going to yell at her because I go, she learned this from her mother. And it's like, you cannot yell at her because she didn't put the garbage out or whatever it is. Like I told her my spoons are missing, right? And they're upstairs. You know why? Because she didn't put them away. Because sometimes I'll leave my dish on in my office, in my living room here, and don't put it away, and it's there for a few hours. Of course, she's watching me. She's 24. She is. And I thought about it. She is watching. It doesn't matter if you're little or older. And I put that together today. Actually, I was cooking myself something to eat. I'm like, oh my gosh, I taught her this. This was me. I can't be angry at my daughter because she saw how I am. So yeah, it is the kids do watch. I remember a parent across the street was swearing at her children. Actually, it was during discipline. So that child is going to be okay to swear, in the way they discipline. In my children's ministry, all my children are coming from dysfunctional families. It took like a year or so for every child to calm down, really. They were really, really, really misbehaved, but we set some rules and things like that. And then I also learned that you can see the children from children's church who already have Christian parents were more behaved than the children we take care of because they're living with parents who are single home. About 10 of them, 15 of them are living in a women's shelter right now. So it took a while, but I'm seeing some results because they're coming to our ministry, they're coming to our church, and we're teaching them about Jesus. And we're noticing that a lot of the behaviors are noticing off. So whatever they're learning from us, they'll take home, and we're hoping that their parents do. I think coming to the children's church gives them a relief of what's going on and what they're being taught, and we're teaching them something different. So I'm hoping that be an example. So this is an awesome topic. It is our responsibility because they're watching. I'm not going to say to my daughter, well, I won't say it, but, put your dish away. Well, you can say that to her, but I didn't put mine away a couple hours ago. You know what I mean? So it makes sense. They are watching us. My daughter's watching me do praise and worship. She's watching me pray. She saw everything because she's living with me for 4 months. And I'm hoping that's going to be an impact on her. But she's also seen an imperfect mother also. So I'm learning so much. So this is a great topic, Coach. Thank you, Coach.
It is a fun topic, and I'm looking to see I'm just going to keep going because I want to. I don't want to spoil the fun, and I want to have a couple more people come up on stage. I see Shirley's here. Welcome, Shirley. Yessie is here, and also Mind Speak. All right. And with that, welcome, David Solomon. Nice to see you. Come on up. Welcome, Mind Zapper. Come on up. Mind Speak, excuse me. Come on up. Shirley, come on up. Ruben, come on up. All right, so let's take a look here. What does society say about raising children? How do we instill political conversation? Thoughts? Anybody hear me? Sujata, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear.
Yeah.
We hear you.
Okay. All right. So when it comes to training kids, I think one of the biggest problems is we're ending, I think, the era of have to have double, single income and single parent. So I think the difficulty happens when we've got two parents and they're both working and they're not able to provide for the kids. They're not able to create the programs necessary, the structures necessary to hang out with and put them back. Whoops. Hello.
Hello.
Love this. Love this app sometimes. All right. We've got Philippines listening in. Just want to share that. Ren's Tower Camp. And so my question is, Shirley, welcome to the stage. I'd love to hear your thoughts on, do parents practice what they preach, and why does our youth seem so muddled?
In my opinion, I think the whole and a lot of the cases of the family structures has changed from when I was brought up and maybe you were brought up, because of computers and phones. It used to be where you would sit, families would sit and have a meal together. In a lot of cases now that does not happen. Everybody get their little food, go into their room, and so no sitting down. Well, how was school today? And because of how I think a lot of the standards have changed, kids do what they see their parents do, and if we're not really mindful of what it is that we do, you do as I say, not as I do, have that type attitude, then that's when the kids say,
screw
that
you.
don't make sense. because they're more alert and questioning. Where when I was coming up, if adult told us to be quiet, that's what we did. Now the kids, a youth or young child say, "Why?" I was just, so it's a whole different environment. So I think and see what they see on television and what they're allowed to look at, and what and I think in a lot of cases, just the general value of respect and everything has changed. But in terms of the children going to do what they see their parents do, and I always I have a conversation with my daughter. She has a 9-year-old, and if you don't do it, then and you just tell them to do it, then that's sending a double message. If you're not going to do it, or you're not conscious enough to do it and show them that that's the right way to go. The same way as you tell your child smoking is bad, you'll get sick, and then you sit and start puffing off a cigarette. What message are you saying to them? And it can't be so too bad. You're doing it. So I don't know. We just have to pray and actually change a lot of the parenting structures that now has come into play. I yield the mic.
So with that, I pass the microphone over to Brother Joey. And I'll share the question again with you, Joey, so you'll be able to step right into speed. Do parents practice what they preach, and why does our youth seem so muddled up?
First of all, how am I in the number one spot? Am I in the number one spot for everyone else? Am I to the left of you, Coach?
You are. I'd say you're up to you, sir. I appreciate it. Did you hear my question? Did you hear the question? What's that? Right.
So, parents don't practice what they preach. So, no, let me take that back. Parents used to not practice what they preach, and because of the because of the way we were brought up as kids, we were told, even if the parents don't practice what they preach, that the child was to give a respect anyway to the parent. That was then, I'm using air quotes, that was the right thing to do. What I think we're seeing now is we're seeing a generation that I think was smarter than our generation before us. And I think it's forcing parents, if they're going to keep the relationship with their child, I think it's forcing parents to really live. I think as a culture, I think there's a lot of things that have happened over the past time. I think we're demanding integrity. We're demanding accountability. We're demanding this from people. We don't want to hear do as I say, not as. Wait, what does that saying goes? Do as you're told, or whatever the saying was when we grew up. Do as I say, not as whatever.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Kind of thing. So that's of the past, and we're expecting more from each other. And I think as the generation that is raising up now, I feel like my kids hold me to a huge high standard. I would have never, and not because I was a better kid than my kid, I would have never told my mom or my dad, why did you say that to the person at the checkout line? Maybe they're just having a bad day. And I'm like, gosh, my kids are awesome. They hold me to a high standard. But we were afraid years ago to do that because the generation and how we were brought up, we were supposed to respect authority without putting them through the test. So years ago, I'd say that parents don't, whatever the question was, I think that's kind of changing now, I think, for the better. And that's my take on this world.
Excuse me. I love it. Good afternoon. Good evening, Ruben. How are you? Any notes from him in the back?
Hello, how is everyone?
Phenomenal. How are you doing?
Good. Second. Number one, I was made about muddled. You know, I'm a dad. My divorce, so it's kind of difficult. My son, you know, so and I hope I'm doing I'm being the best that I can be for him. All my a lot. It's very savvy. So yeah, you gotta be your better be doing it, you know. So I'm gonna say, okay, have a good day.
Thank you so much. And with that, we pass the mic over to Brother Wade or Letitia, whoever's there.
Hello, this is Wade. My thoughts why things have changed is because our culture has shifted it to the point where children today are taught to not always obey authority.
Yeah. My classic.
And I see a lot of it. I feel like a lot of it has to do with, in any relationship, but especially a parent-child relationship, do you care, first of all? Because until they have established that you really care about them, they really don't want to listen.
Amen.
And I think one of the other things is maybe there's some explanation. What I'm thinking of as an example is a child, we'll say, from in their formative years, needs a lot more rest than I do as an adult, or there may be exceptions to the rules. And so oftentimes there are exceptions to the rules. I got to go out and I have to take care of something. So that's why I'm out later. That's why I'm up later. One of the things I had to explain to my kids was because I took care of a hand-fired wood stove, that meant I had to stay up late, so we all stayed warm. I believe when you start to explain some of the reasoning behind it, and it's not just do as I say, there's a lot to it. But my take on it is, I've always thought this. So my father was in the Navy, And so being in the service, you don't ask questions of a superior. You are told to do what you're told to do and when to do it. And you're not really there to ask questions. And that got brought home. And I think there's where a lot of that leadership style comes in. But my thoughts are, command and control sometimes, but not always. There's certain situations. There are situations where I think we need to sit down and explain what's going on. And sometimes we have to accept the fact that, yes, we are not keeping with integrity and admit we're wrong. And these are things today that I think are improvements in relationships. That's what I think. That's what I see going on. My thoughts, my 2 cents worth. So back to you, Coach.
Thank you, Brother Wade. And with that, I pass the mic to Ruben. Ruben, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Why am I being passed the mic again? I asked you a question about muddling, but
okay, so because I didn't hear that question, and I've been booted out of the room once today already. Can you repeat that question?
No, about the question that you said about kids being muddled. What does that mean?
Oh, what it means. Okay, I apologize. Yeah. So muddled is another word for confused and beat up. So if you go into a bar, they have this little piece of porcelain with a pestle. They have a mortar and a pestle, and they'll grind up a sugar cube, and they'll grind up some spices, and they muddle it and then put that into a drink. And so I was using the word muddle because I think our youth is a little bit ground up and mixed. And I think part of the difficulty with our youth is that they have to fight the parental example. Does that communicate?
Yep, I get it.
Awesome.
Another thing that they have to do is there was this book called Stolen Focus from the author is Hari, Hari. He's British, and we also have to. He says that we have to compete with, the media and the bombardment of the internet and the social, networks and stuff like that. So.
Yep. 100%. And I think the social media is 100 times more messy and more invasive and more addictive and more coercing than the newspaper or TV was when it was alone years ago.
Yep. I agree.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you joining in with us.
Okay, thank you. All right, bye.
Thanks,
I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. Okay. Now, my screen is all muddled up. Shirley, did you get a chance to speak?
Yeah.
Okay. And Joey did, and Ruben did, and Michelle did, and Wade did. So we've got Dawn. Man. Dawn, would you like to share your thoughts on, do parents practice what they preach? And why does our youth?
Oh, let's see. Where do I begin? I'll say this much. For 15 years, I worked with the youth. here in Louisiana. And of course, when I was a child, TVs were turning from black and white to color.
Amen.
And we had the dialing telephones, and we walked or we rode our bike to soccer practice, football practice, band practice. We had to weed gardens. We had to rake leaves. The world was safe enough for us to easily find odd jobs so that we could pay for things that our parents couldn't pay for. We did not have to pay for 5 or 6 insurances by law. We had recess. We did everything that we ate in the cafeteria did not come out of a can. We also we did what the teacher said. We did what the coach said. We did what the policeman said because we believed and our parents believed that was the right thing to do. That's what a normal, upstanding neighborhood citizen would do. Now we have kids that it's not safe for you to go outside of the house and go 2 doors down to the neighbor's house and ask for a cup of sugar. It's not safe for you to do this or for you to do that. It's not safe anywhere. What's safe is if I give you a tablet and you live your life through this blue screen, that's always safe and it's fun and it's exciting. And now we're in this age of hyper communication. And literally, people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it took years for me to establish relationships with the children. And they would scream and cry if their parents wouldn't let them come to our Tuesday night quick little children's Bible study. And then the parents were wondering, why do they love this so much? Because normally they just want to play on their screen. And they learn the value of how to hold a conversation instead of, and then but we did not know how to teach them how to use the internet safely because we were living in the age where the internet had just come about. So nobody has solidified the impact that hypercommunication has on families, on children, on psychological issues. Everybody's playing it by ear. It's like COVID hit and nobody knew what to do. Well, this is the best thing to do. Well, this is the best thing to do. Same thing when it comes to the internet. However, the children are the bologna in the middle of a sandwich. The parents say, I hate this thing. I hate computers. I don't want to have anything to do with them. Yet the school and everything they have to do to apply for college says, you are forced to use it. You have to use it. You have no choice but to use it. And the children are stuck in the middle of the sandwich. Well, you have to get out, college didn't cost as much as it does now when we were in school. So they're not offered the same things that were offered. But society demands that they do certain things that was not demanded of us when we were trying to get on our feet. And so how do you counsel somebody on something that you have not experienced yourself? And usually they look to the elders for advice, but the elders, mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, I don't know how to even use that website, get that thing away from me, So the children would say, Miss Dawn, how can we do the right thing if our parents say it's bad, but the school says it's good, but our parents say it's bad and the school say it's good. And I said, well, there's a balance. And I said, let's talk about priorities and authorities, and we had to talk through it. And, some children were able to balance football practice, baseball, soccer, whatever, but other children didn't have the opportunity or the money to get into sports. And well, Johnny has somebody that he can safely go and rake leaves, so he's got a little extra money, but Susie, she doesn't live in a safe neighborhood where she can get a job. So every child was different. And then, you know, we always were taught to rely on your parents and your grandparents for information. Now they don't have that information to give to these children because they've never lived it and it was never demanded of them. So, yes, it takes them longer to get on their feet because now they have to have health insurance, car insurance, mortgage insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, you know, all kinds of insurance, along with the regular bills of daily life. So how do they get financially secure and build that with our young adults? So it's hard for each generation to understand each other because so much happened between 1980 and now. I could probably go on a lot, but I better mute right there.
No, it's good. It's good. Oh, it's awesome. I really appreciate it.
Did I say too much? Because I have like 25 more things I could easily say, but this is what the toddlers, the youth, and the young adults are telling me, and they pour their heart out to me. And we have to find that balance individually and not everybody. This is the rule for everybody.
Right. And I think that's to me, I think you hit the nail on the head there with part of this. And that is being responsible for communication that allows us to look at, how do I put this? Yes, there's a new paradigm that's being created by all this stuff. Understood. The world is a crazy place in some situations. And yet there's no, there occurs to me a lot, there occurs to me things called helicopter parents. Are you familiar with that term, Dawn?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very much so.
She chuckles.
I was one.
Oh,
boy. Until I started working with the youth.
And for me, I think the generation has grown up so protected, so overprotected. And then we want to try and level up for our kids. And how do you level up from already being protected? By being a helicopter parent. And I look at that and I go, oh my God, I can't even imagine. You know, I loved the freedom of going to work when I was 12 years old on my own. I felt like my part of being a grown-up, getting on my pedal bike and going to work. You know, walking to the grocery store where I had a 4-hour shift. And I think that there's that independence, that thrill of escaping the discipline, escaping the walls of home to go and get started in life.
Hey, Coach.
Yep.
If you don't mind, can I jump in?
Oh, I love that, Christine. Go right ahead.
Awesome. So listening, I haven't been in the room very long to listen to everyone's conversation, but I heard what Dawn said, and I hear the question about why is the youth so muddled. And I'd like to, just put in my thought process about it. I feel like I'm in the generation that's in between. I'm a millennial. I was born in 88.
A tweener.
Sir?
A tweener.
A tweener?
A tweener, a between, between tweener.
Oh yeah, a tweener. Okay. And what I've discovered through, especially hitting, my 30s, I'm now 34, is, we as individuals, we as human beings, we can only transfer knowledge through our experience. And so it's difficult for us to relate to the next generation because we're constantly, as mankind, evolving. And I believe, just through books that I've read and movies that I've seen, that the generation prior, 20 years prior, is always looking to the past as the grounded foundation. Like, oh, if it was only like this, if it was only more like this is so much more wholesome. Even people in the 30s were wishing that they could go back in time into the 20s and so on. And I agree in so many levels that the internet and social media is extremely toxic and can cause a lot of pain in a lot of people's lives, but it is inevitable that that's where we're at. And I think that the few things that we can consistently pass down generation through generation through generation are the fundamentals of security and self-worth, like self-worth. And that would be things like setting boundaries and open communication and soft skills. And if we focus on those things, and even not just giving those life lessons as children, transferring those life lessons and that type of communication, teaching those things as children, but also as young adults, it would be so much more beneficial because, yes, like, it seems most people these days, especially the younger generations, only know how to communicate via cell phone, whether it's email or social media or videos and YouTube. Not very many people have the confidence to speak out in person, and they don't know how to show themselves, show who they really are in person. And I feel like there's not so much of, I don't know so much that the younger generations or the youth is muddled. It's just that we're going through such a large transformation, something that we've never experienced in humankind, right? Like in mankind. It's always been face-to-face communication. And then there was like the evolution of telegrams and the evolution of telephone and the evolution of internet. And now we're so far away from anything that we've ever experienced, even going out and looking for a job interview. I mean, I grew up always thinking and understanding that the best way is to be very proactive, be there in person, introduce them, right? And so that now ties more into networking. It's now titled, whereas for me growing up, that was the only way I knew. And now the more prominent side is to do it on the internet and to be proactive on Indeed and proactive on launching your CV or being, filling out applications online. Nobody really has time to meet with you in person and in face-to-face. So really, it's a weird situation. I feel torn on both sides because I feel like I'm behind the curve of the internet. I'm behind the curve of being, I guess, proactive online. And I'm also behind the curve on the way I used to do it. And I'm kind of lost in this abyss. So maybe, I don't know, as I'm talking, maybe I am a bit muddled. But I think it's just, instead of comparing, just like we're taught and we tell people, don't compare yourself to others, that's going to keep you down. You can't compare generation to generation. You can only transfer the fundamentals of self-worth, the fundamentals of boundary setting, the fundamentals of communication and soft skills. Those are the only things I think that will continue to live on strong without evolution.
Yes. I mean, the same thing I think the same thing can be said for music, right? I mean, you look at the generation from the 20s, when and 30s, when rock and roll came out, right? Oh my gosh, that's sinful. What's that loud noise? What is that? So I think every generation has their hurdles. I think it's inherent in human being Sujata, are you there?
Yes, at the moment, StreamYard has been disappearing, and it's been quite a challenge this morning.
Okay, well, we can hear you perfectly right now. Did you want to throw in on this conversation? And that was Christine that we just heard.
Yes, I think Don and Christine had some awesome shares, because that's where we are at today. Some of us are at different stages, and we are caught in between. And there's been so much of, what should I say? Like they said, the evolution and the Internet of Things. Earlier, we used to be in person. Even now, if you look at it, I think we are caught between, should we be in person or should we be always online? Everything is supposed to be online, but sometimes I feel it doesn't replace the physical experience of meeting one another and talking. I mean, online is fine and it's great, but sometimes you need to have conversations, or just the experience of being in somebody's company and listening and talking and sharing. So that also is very important. And technology has really run its course, where it's taken over in a huge way, and we are not in control of many things. And whether it's the adults or the children, we have so much to deal with, so much of information, over information, and all kinds of things which are thrown at us, right? So
Yep.
we ourselves go through what are we going to process and not process. So if adults are in that stage, then imagine the plight of the youth or the children, which of whatever age group they are in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also wanted to add to, like, just encouraging communication. We as human beings, we process our thoughts. We live in our heads 100% of the time. I mean, our thoughts, our subconscious is what drives us to make our decisions. And if we're not actively speaking, then we're not able to process and file our thoughts. So we could just encourage people, especially the younger generations, to speak. Just speak. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to articulate well, you don't have to have a large vocabulary, but just speak. Process what you're receiving, because all day long, all it is a point of receiving. You're just receiving information all day long, whether it's a TV or your phone or your laptop or work. You're just constantly receiving information, but so many people have forgotten how to verbalize what they're experiencing, so they never process it, and then their subconscious becomes extremely overwhelmed and just throws out, like, not verbal vomit because it's a subconscious speaking, but thoughtful vomit. And
90,000 thoughts a day.
Yes. And if we just speak, that's why I'm on Clubhouse, because, to be honest, I mean, I have kind of reclused. I used to be very outgoing, very bubbly. I was in the food and beverage industry, back of house predominantly. I was a chef, sous chef, executive sous chef de cuisine, and I would just constantly speak all day long. And it was, I was just a very outgoing person. But I've, in the last year and a half, I've pulled back from that industry, and I've become a little bit more reclused. And I found myself, falling deep into my thoughts. And my thoughts, it can be very good. It can be very healing. And I've definitely discovered a lot about myself. But I've also gotten to the point where I don't speak to people as often as I used to. And that has become a little harmful. So that's why I use Clubhouse. Like, let me process through the things, and the hearing topics like we're talking about today. It's very beneficial. It's something that needs to be talked about. I need to hear about it. I need to talk about it. So thank you. Thank you for that. This room today.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'd like to add to this that yes, we don't talk because, ironically, while there are platforms which say that we can talk and safe spaces and all, but how many people are actually listening? You can talk, but if there's nobody to listen and be there to hear you, then we become reclused and we say, who am I going to talk to and why should I even waste my energy? So that is also a part of what's happening right now, that, we should express and we are encouraged to talk at one end, but there should be active listeners, right? Who just listen to you and then have a conversation on that. It's not about right or wrong or whatever it is. It's just about having that conversation. And I see it all around that there are people who want to express, but there are no takers of listeners. And that, I think, is very important.
Well, remember, Sujata, and you've heard me say this. We have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. And for me, to speak 20% of the time, listen 40% of the time, and look 40% of the time, that just doesn't happen anymore.
That could be, you have to be so self-aware and strong to do that. And if you don't mind, I'm still, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
Christine, no, go for it. Here's the thing, Christine, this is I know this is your first time in here, and you'll find, and you can ask, you can hear the repercussion of what I'm about to say. But in this room, as long as people aren't rude, they aren't condescending or destructive or dramatic, to have a discussion like this where you chime in, to me, chiming in is musical, and it's a dance back and forth in the conversation. So, and the way you just chimed in, please do not worry, go for it. I'm here to moderate. I have a whole bunch of opinions, and Sujata and I spend hours talking with each other and chose to put these podcasts together. And it's a joy to dance in the conversation with people from all walks of life, from all around the world. So please feel free. The mic is yours.
Thank you. Yeah. So on that level, though, what you're just talking about, something I like, Nelson Mandela was big on, right? Like, listen twice as often as you speak. I've grown to be really big on that myself. I went through this life journey in the last year that has been eye-opening, like a spiritual awakening, just a conscious awakening experience, and it's been amazing. But I started a new job where I was a chef instructor at a culinary school, and I started practicing this because when I was in the industry, I definitely did not practice that. I spoke more often than I listened. I had a temper. I was all the world's everything that you know a chef to be, and then a little bit more. And so I started this new job with that in mind. I was listening twice as often as I was speaking. I was looking constantly. I observed the people around me. I tried. Oh, y'all hear that?
Yep. Hold on a second. That's Sujata took herself off mute.
Okay. So are we good now?
Yep, we are. Go for it.
So in that situation, I think it takes a lot of mental strength to know how to construct or orchestrate that, especially being in my 30s, growing into a new person. I'm no longer the person I was in my 20s. And I'm getting to know myself again. And so exercising that new way of operating put me in a position to be over talked often and not knowing when to interject, or I kind of let my confidence get away from me. I used to be so confident, and then I found myself in a position where I wasn't as confident, and I was more unsure of myself, and listening more than I spoke made me seem vulnerable, I guess, which isn't a bad thing, but it can be. There's just so many fine lines, and you've got to really know who you are to put yourself in a position to, you should always listen more than you speak, because that's how you gain knowledge, but you also have to be strong so that your voice doesn't get lost, I guess is what I'm saying. And I let that happen, which is a great learning experience. I don't regret it, but it's so much stickier than just telling people, listen more than you speak.
Well, and so there's another piece to this, Christine, is, and I'm because you said it, I'm going to pick on you, if that's okay.
Please do.
So one of the things in my coaching that I do my darndest to do is not tell people what to do. What my goal is to ask questions that have people do the thinking, that has the answer rise up in the conversation. And when I coach the youth of today, what I hear all the time back from them is, you listen, and it's like you really care about my thoughts. and sometimes I'll laugh, and they're like, why are you laughing? I said, because that's called being a human being, and being with somebody that is equal to who we each are. I'm no better than you. I may have more days on this planet than you. I may have seen a few more things than you. My cognitive abilities may have been honed by experience. And yet you have a fresh perspective that is unhindered, clear of my clouded, filtered thoughts. And that's what I want to discover. That's what I want to ask questions for. I mean, I had this debate with, not debate, but I had a discussion today with a client. I said, I love to talk with janitors, dishwashers, garbage men, people who live on the street, people that are, when I'm on missions trips, the people that are living in in a hut with a dirt floor. And I treat them with the dignity that they're a miracle, because we're all miracles. And so for me, it's about not telling them, it's about discovering and sharing, so that what happens is this live discussion grows in the space between us. Does that communicate, Christine?
Yes, keep going.
Well, so here's the good news, and here's the not so good news, is that we are at our time for today, and we are going to be moving our discussion into tomorrow's podcast at the same time. It starts at 4:15 Central Time. And we're going to continue this discussion and looking at what would happen if parents practice what they preach. What would happen if they looked at youth as being the result of the muddling that media, social media, and life, and this is no offense to anybody, helicopter parenting and the impact of all of that on the youth, if we could shift that conversation and create something different. That's going to be the homework for us in this room to come back to tomorrow. And for those of you that can't make it tomorrow, we're also going to be Friday night at 9:30 p.m. Central Standard, so that we can do a late night chit chat. And I invite you to invite some people that are in their teens, invite some people that are in their 20s. Let's really take this on. Bring in a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old that's opinionated. We've had some discussions, right, Joey, where we've had some kids in our rooms discussing in the Zig Ziglar rooms, that have come in with, and the Bible study rooms that have come in with some huge breakdowns against religion, huge breakdowns against the older generation, having felt like they never get heard, they never get appreciated for the difficulties that they have to muddle through. That's why I love that word. So I'm going to land my mic there. I'd love it if I could I'm going to shut down the video and come back to Clubhouse. And if we could look and do our darndest to wrap up, because there's a couple people that just popped in, Stephen and James. I'd love to hear from them. The question is, do parents practice what they preach? And why does our youth seem so muddled? And if we could kind of draw this to a conclusion for today in the next 9 to 10 minutes. Sujata, anything else you want to put in before I shut down the video aspect?
No, I think you shut down this and we can go to Clubhouse, because, I would like to hear what James and Stephen say before we wrap up.
Perfect. All right. So just give me, I'll let James go ahead and share. And in the meantime, Sujata, if you want to pop off and just, and I'm going to turn down the volume and close down StreamYard.
How you guys been? It's been a while since I've seen either of you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. For those of you that are watching this live, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And I am going to be shutting down, and we're looking forward to be back here tomorrow. As I said, 4:15 Central Standard tomorrow, which is Thursday afternoon. And we look forward to that. And then Friday, we'll be back here at 9:30 p.m. Take care. Have a blessed day, everybody. And with that,
Coaching with Les has doubled my practice.
We've increased our sales by about 33%, of blowing all of our goals out of the water.
In my first 6 months, I actually grew my business with his help over 500%. Literally 500%.
Les Hill is the type of person that invests back in you and back into your company. So if you're looking for a business coach with integrity, choose Les Hill.